Good morning, Australia, and good evening, America. You're listening live to Toni Lontis on Radio Toni with the amazing John Williams. And before I introduce you to John again, I just wanted to say I had a fabulous opportunity this morning to listen to a breakfast networking event with the glorious Nat, who is a gold medalist. And it leads into our conversation today about action taking and the type of action that she needed to take to win a gold medal in volleyball. And it meant surrounding herself with things that reminded her of her end goal, which was, of course, to get a gold medal, down to the fact that she even washed with a soap called Palmolive Gold. And so, with that thought about action taking and surrounding us with the end goal in mind, please welcome my amazing co host, John Williams.
Good morning, Toni.
And John and I have just been talking about the weather before we come live on the show today. And of course, it's freezing where I am. And John's talking about it being very balmy in Brisbane today.
Yeah.
So before we get on with our subject today, we'll be talking about Module 3 in the Andreia method. And it's all about conscious action. But before we get on to the module today, I'd love John to recap what we've covered so far in the first few programs. Over to you, John.
Yeah, sure. Well, Toni, we've talked about finding your default position. The Andreia method is broken into 3 modules. The first one is finding your default position. That's kind of like, think about your got a bit of feedback there.
That's a bit of feedback on my end.
So think about your computer or your iPhone. It has a default. When you turn it on, there's your default screen. Well, we humans are the same. We have a default position that we've learned through the process of domestication through our lives. And we have to become aware of what that default is really before we can start making changes. The second part was the last week's show, we talked about creating the new you. And that's about learning to understand what the truth is and how to speak your truth, what the differences between vision, mission, and purpose, the power of your language. How important is it, the word you mentioned before, Palmolive Gold?
Yes.
It seems as such a small point, but it's a powerful message, a reminder to Nat that was her goals. She created that in her world, and she gave meaning to it. It doesn't matter whether she gave meaning to it or, the point is she used the language to reinforce the message she wanted to give herself. And the final part of that message is taking responsibility. Responsibility. What is responsibility all about? Are you in control of your life, or are you living in a world of blame and shame? And by doing that, you come through a process where you can say, hey, I know who I am, and I know my default position, and this is what I think I want right now.
Yeah.
You don't really come out with a certainty unless you're very lucky. That's what's a great advantage of having the focus that Nat did, and we'll get on to focus in a minute. But I had a daughter that was a competitive swimmer. It was her everything. There was no questions. Single focus. That's what it is. That's what it takes. That's the only thing that matters. So most people, though, are going, well, I think that's what I want to do. Okay, but the next step is to find out, and that's taking conscious action. So now that you've worked your default out, worked out the new you, the next step is to consciously take action. Now, we really emphasize the word conscious, because what this method is all about is enabling people to make conscious decisions to respond and not react.
Yes.
The first part of the first lesson in taking conscious action is be, do, have. Now, most people think the world works the way that if I have the money, if I do the job, I'll have the money, and then I'll buy the car and I'll be happy. All right. So they work in the direction that the more I do, the more I have, then I'll be whatever it is that I want to be. That's not the way it works. We work in the field of ontological coaching, and ontology is the study of being. And what we find is that action falls out of being. Now, you will have heard people say, "Oh, fake it till you make it." Well, faking it's pretty hard work. In fact, it's exhausting. So what we do is we help people see the gap between who they are being today, because there's a set of results that are attached to that, and that's the results they're getting today. And then also perhaps imagine who they need to be in order to win a gold medal. What is it they have to, who do they have to be to achieve that outcome goal. So that's a change of context. It's not a matter of doing more, because you can only achieve so much at the level of doing. And when we think about the change of context, it's probably, there's two examples I like using. It's the difference between Newtonian physics and quantum physics. Nothing has actually changed, just the way in which we look at it, and everything, things that we thought impossible before are now possible. And another really simple way is to look at it in a universe of color. Let's imagine that we're in a universe of colors. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to eradicate every other color except red and blue. So our whole universe is now red and blue. So what colors are possible? Red, blue, and purple.
Correct.
I can't think of anything else. Is green possible?
No.
No. In order to get green, we've got to change the context. We've got to introduce yellow. Now we can get green and orange and half a dozen other colors. And if we put a bit of black in there, magic happens and we can have the whole color of the rainbow. So if we're going to change the context, we might as well change it to what we want it to be to produce the outcome. But that makes it possible. Until we change the context and the way in which we are living, we are like fleas in a jar. Even if you take the lid off, you're not going to jump out because you think there's a level there. And that's where we're talking about changing the context. So that's the first part of taking conscious action. The next part of taking conscious action, we call it taking action, and it really is about accountability. And there's two aspects to accountability. One is, and I'll use your example that you brought Nat to the table before. She doubtlessly has a coach and a squad of people behind her who are prepared to hold her to account, prepared to hold her together in those moments when she couldn't hold herself together. It's a team effort. It's a really important thing. Those people there hold her to account. She holds herself to account by stating, I am going to win a gold medal, by stating that is her goal. And now she's made a public declaration of it. And that brings me to the second part, which I think is potentially more important, particularly for our listeners today and in general life. When you declare an intent and you are prepared to discuss it openly, and it becomes part of a general conversation, you simply do not know who you are talking to and who can help you, or who might be standing next to the person that you're talking to in the shop that might have a vested interest in helping you achieve that outcome. The declaration, the power of a public declaration, produces huge outcomes for everyone. That's why I'm sitting here with you today, Toni. I'm declaring that this is what I want to achieve in the world. I want to live in a world of enlightened citizens and leaders. And my job is to create conversations to enlighten individuals and coach them to inspire them to do the same, be the difference. So I make a public declaration because that is the intent that I want to fulfill on and where I'm coming from. So I'm creating accountability for myself. And I can be held to account. People say, I heard you on Radio Toni and you said this. Yeah, I did.
I was just going to say, so John has told me of his intent from the first time that we actually met. And so since I know about that, I'm going to ask him, how's that going? And are you achieving that goal, or are you working towards that goal? And I just wanted to mention quickly on a personal note, when I made the decision to write my memoir, I started writing, obviously. But what pushed me over and got me going and into more action and actually sitting down and writing that book was the fact that I talked about it in social media. And I would have people message me, contact me, how's the book writing going? How are you going with that book? When's it going to be published? What's the process like? And that kept me going. And it resulted in me stopping what I was doing in a July, sitting down and writing until November, and publishing the book in January. It's really powerful, isn't it, John?
Absolutely. That's a perfect example, Toni. And people you get that encouragement, you get that feeling, yeah,
Yes.
let's do this and let's make this happen. And yes, I'm already succeeding. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I have that put me in a unique position to be able to do what I do. In fact, I'm busy writing a blog at the moment.
Yay.
That's actually, it's about my second name. You see, my second name
Oh,
is Andrew, and that
yes.
is coincidental. We did not
Uh-huh.
deliberately name the company Andreia, because my
Yeah, yeah,
second name
yeah.
was Andrew. I'm not even sure Tanya even knows that. Maybe she knows it now.
Yeah, yeah.
But the point about that is owning it,
Yeah.
and saying, listen, I serendipity, whatever, here I am.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
this is what I do, and this is what I will always do. I heard somebody say the other day, a guy called Richard Livkin said this: the difference between successful people and people who struggle is
Yeah,
often that they both have dreams. They both have big dreams. Those that struggle
yeah.
spend their lives preparing to achieve their dreams, and often never do. Those that succeed take little
Uh-huh.
steps towards it every day, every single day. So
Yes,
every single day
yes.
I have a success in achieving my outcome, and maybe one day before I pass from this planet, I will be able to look around and go, yeah, made a difference.
I did that.
So
So,
I
John,
take
what
action
is the
every day.
connection? Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Going back to your earlier point about Andrew, what's the connection between Andrew and Andreia? I'm
Well, the
curious now.
derive Andrew is a
The derivative?
derivative of Andrea, and the
Ah,
name means the same. It's essentially that.
wow.
Yeah, it's like I've been named and I only really sort of figured that out after the fact. So it's like, and I
Yeah,
want to own that
yeah.
because it's a name to
Yes,
live into. All right. So I'm taking the action right now of putting that into writing, making a public
yeah,
declaration, sticking it up on my social media and all around the
yes,
place, and owning it.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
can see that is a positive action towards consciously taking my life down the road of being the embodiment of Andrea, if you want.
yes,
And
yeah,
it's branded on me. It was my name came from my grandfather, my beloved grandfather.
yes.
So I'm very proud to have that as a name. But I mean, I really did some soul searching around. Should I really own that in context of Andrea, or is it just a bit woo-woo or a bit, oh, that's convenient? And of course you named it after yourself, well, that's not the case. But so I thought, well, you know what?
You
I'm not going to
didn't
be embarrassed around
consciously.
it. No,
Yeah, yeah,
didn't consciously. That's the thing, Tony. Didn't consciously.
yeah.
There's a temptation to listen to the little voices in your head that go, oh, you're going to look like a fool because you should have figured it out, and B, of course you did it for yourself, and I don't want those
Yeah.
implications. And then I thought, no, you're giving into fear, false evidence appearing real.
Yes. Yes.
I am who I am, and people will make their judgment one way or another anyway. So
I would like
why
to
not
think
own
that
who I
that
was
was,
born to be?
yes,
And
because there's
that's the whole
something
essence of
divine
Andrea.
about that. Yeah, there's something divine and preordained about about that. It's you telling me that today makes me think that the universe always had that planned.
Oh, that's
Always.
I guess the point
Yeah.
I'm going to on this,
Yeah.
Toni, is that, well, you know, it's a business, I say law, but it's
Yes.
a meme that's between 75 and 90% of strategy is emergent, which means we don't have direct control over it. Of course, if we don't plan to succeed, then we're planning to fail. That's also true.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what actually happens is often beyond our control.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you
that
can
actually brings me very neatly to focus, which is the next lesson.
Yes.
And I didn't actually mean to segue it, but yes, you can control. That's the thing is, when we talk about, we have our reticular activating system, our RAS. Now, as we discussed in the earlier discussions in module 1, this creates a default position. We see and receive information through our filters. So of all the information that is possible for us to take on board, we're taking a thin slither of it, and then we are convinced, unless we know otherwise, that that's the truth, because that's the way I see it. And the perfect example of this is politics. You generally will vote the party that your family were brought up in. You will generally continue to do that, because that's just the way it is, and no amount of evidence will show you. In fact, the more evidence you see, the more evidence you see for your decision. So what we encourage people to do is step back. Hey, think of all the perspective, all of your life, all the things you have learned as a kaleidoscope. When you look at a kaleidoscope, all those pretty colors and patterns are all always there. They're never not there. But a shift changes the picture. So a shift in your perspective and allowing for the fact that something else might be possible enables you to see your experience, not just your future, but your experience, through a different set of filters. Now you really are creating the possibility of change, because you're starting to put the question mark on everything. Remember last week we talked about the statement, "My boss is a jerk," where the question mark becomes, "My boss is a jerk?"
Is he
it
really?
creates the possibility for something else. And so when we get down to this point about, yes, it is possible to change and to create a future for yourself. One of the key things we teach in the focus lesson is, focus on what you want. And that's where Nat went, focused on that. But one of the keys to achieving those goals is not to be too attached to the how that's going to show up. So think of two words, commitment and attachment. You can be committed to winning that gold medal. I can be committed to living in a world of enlightened citizens and leaders. All right?
Yeah.
What I can't do is be attached to how that's going to come about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't know I was going to respond to your blog on LinkedIn until I did. And I didn't know that we would be here and having this conversation, but I did. I wouldn't know that your thinking that was aligned very much with my own, so that we're a nice, lovely fit. Didn't know that.
Yes.
Committed to getting the message out, which is why I was on LinkedIn and doing my work, taking those small steps every day, but not attached to a particular outcome. And that's where people go, well, success looks like this. Success looks like having the big house on the hill with the Rolls Royce and my own business.
But does it?
Does it? Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's right. Does it?
What is it? What is it? And that gets you onto
what is it to you?
What is it? Well, that's exactly right. And that, and that's lesson 4. Lesson 4 in the Take Action module is gratitude. Gratitude.
Oh, yes.
And that's the key to it, because, what is it that you have? So people talk about, being happy. I want to be happy. Well,
happy.
Yeah. I even once, I got myself in such a state, I actually had a psychologist say to me, I said, I get this feeling where I'm like, everything's okay. Like
Yes.
I'm sitting there and I don't have to be somewhere. And he said, yeah, that's what they call happiness, John. Okay, cool. I had to have that pointed out to me. Good work, John. And
Wow.
I've worked on this one, and it is that sense of, I think it is the sense of safety, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of being okay with where you're at and in the world. It doesn't mean that you're the richest person in the world. It doesn't mean you're the poorest person in the world. But there's a classic story of the businessman who meets a fisherman. He's on an island taking a holiday out from his crazy world, and he sees this fisherman coming in from the sea, and boat's full of fish. And the guy says, what are you going to do with the fish? He says, oh, well, we're going to throw some on the fire, we'll cook some up, we'll pull out the guitars, have a sing-along. It's great. Go barbecue on the beach.
Yeah.
He goes, don't do that. You could sell those fish. You can make more fish. I cut the long story short, but basically we go through making a factory and all the rest of it. And the guy, and all the time the fisherman's going, why would I do that? Why would I sell the fish? Why do I want to make money? And it ultimately comes back so he can retire and go fishing because he wants to, and then have a barbecue on the beach. Why bother? Be careful. Careful what you ask for, and be clear about it. But this idea of being grateful and having gratitude for what you have around you is really, really important in maintaining the perspective that you're achieving. Again, our athletes, when my daughter was swimming, 1/10 of a second PB was a PB, personal best, no matter what. 1/10 of a second over 200 meters doesn't sound like an awful lot, but it's an improvement. And you are grateful for that. And particularly, of course, they all know when when they're peaking for competition and when their bodies are tired, but they always find a way of finding something to be grateful for from their training, and it's the reason they turn up next time. It's a huge, huge motivator.
Yeah. You can't underestimate the importance of gratitude and a grateful practice. And I know I talk about it all the time, and part of the reason why I am who I am is in starting that grateful, gracious practice of just being grateful. And I find that that's easy for me. I find it like it's a superpower. I can walk outside and see a flower, and immediately that grateful graciousness fills my heart and soul. I can drive on the way home, and as soon as I get to a certain point on the road, there's an overwhelming feeling of gratitude that, man, I am so lucky to live in the place that I live in. I'm so grateful that I get to go home to our little place on acreage. And I find that gratitude is where my happiness is. But I know for some people, John, that it's not easy for them to be grateful. And I think that is, again, as you mentioned before, about taking those small steps. If you understand that being grateful is part of being successful and happy, and you don't know how to do it, then you start with small steps. And that might be at the end of each day, writing down one thing that you're grateful for. And there is always one thing. And once you start with one thing, then find two. Once you've got two, then find three. And it becomes a practice, and it will enrich your life. And you would have seen that with your clients, John, surely.
Yeah, you have to establish an upward spiral. And this is where your RAS is so important, and where you're putting your attention. Because if you have an internal voice that you're letting run the show by reaction, and you're not seeing past your filters, so you are not being able to see what other opportunity might be there. And I want to go here and talk about people who are vastly less fortunate than I. And even I don't want to sit here and go, gee, you can make magic happen. It can, magically one day you're going to wake up and everything's going to be fine and jolly. And it won't be, because the thing about this journey is that whilst it's simple, whilst the rules and the way human beings, once you start to understand it, it is simple. It is far from easy. It's far from easy.
Absolutely.
And it's so much harder when you are cold and you are poor, you have nowhere to live, and it's incredibly hard.
Nowhere to sleep.
Nowhere to sleep. So, that's very, very difficult to be grateful in that moment. However, if you can find that
one
gem,
spark,
that journey becomes your fuel. It becomes your superpower, because you survived. You survived, and there's a starting point. You're alive. There's a great, if you want to start at that point.
Yes.
And really, the other side of that coin is that you don't have to be particularly well off to have something to be grateful for. If you've got a roof over your head, if you've got a rucksack and a sleeping bag, they can often be enough. Yeah. So I think we can all put together a idea of gratitude. Now, the next step on gratitude is gratitude in advance. So being able to visualize what it is that you will be, that you wish to be, and understand, begin to feel how that is going to be feel, and be grateful for that. Now you're dragging that into reality. And I know some of our listeners are probably going, wow, that's a bit out there, John. But this is what happens. You talk about what it is that you want out of your life. You make a declaration. You work out, who do you need to be to have that in your life, and what is the work you need to do to be that? What's the gap? Make a plan. Make a plan to get over it. No athlete ever got to the Olympics nobody won the gold medal on raw talent. I don't care who raw, even if you were Mark Spitz, and I remember him winning 7 gold medals, or he had to do the work, and that came because he and his coaches sat down. They made a plan, and that's the great thing about coaching. I love about coaching is I can sit with an individual, and we make a plan. We help them work it out. Okay, so this is where we want to go. Now, often, as I say, plans change, but you build a bridge, John, you get over it.
One thing I was going to point out for our listeners is that there's a certain power to be gained by having someone external to yourself that coaches you, advocates for you, and powers you. So yes, you can do it by yourself, absolutely, completely doable by yourself. And for example, the Andreia Solutions program, absolutely you can do it by yourself. But here's the thing about having a personal coach. They will drive you further, quicker, and with more long-lasting results than you can sometimes get by doing it yourself. Has that been your experience, John?
Yep. It's a bit like visiting IKEA and that blessed flat pack.
Yes.
So if you look at it this way, if you get the flat pack furniture and you don't bother reading the instructions, then you really are making life difficult for yourself in terms of constructing your furniture, right? The Andreia method is the instructions. Okay, so you've got the flat pack, and yes, you've got instructions. But you still don't have the guidance of a joiner or an expert, if you want, in the field. So yes, you can make your way through it. But I'm reminded of the story of two young goldfish swimming one way and an old goldfish going the other way. The old goldfish says to the young guys, "How's the water?" And the young guys float on for a bit longer, and then one turns to the other and says, "What's water?" It's very hard to work on your own system because you're in it.
Yes.
You're in it. It's hard for you to, you said that, you can't see the wood for the trees. You're so far inside your own filters that it's very difficult for you to actually see what would be screamingly obvious to a properly trained professional on the outside.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I hear people say, "Well, I have my wife that holds me to account." Oh, right. There's two problems with that. One is that she might be a little too harsh, or your spouse might be a little too harsh on you, or too soft because they love you.
Yeah,
they're not objective. That's the point. If it's a relative, they're not objective. I mean, their job is not to coach you. Their job is to support you and to love you unconditionally. It's a bit difficult to do the two. As a professional, you sit there and you listen. You listen and you bring your skills. You're entirely
and you see
there.
more, don't you, John?
You're entirely there for your coachee.
Yes.
When I'm coaching, I'm 100% there for that coachee. I'm listening to what their stories and what their needs are.
Yes.
And I'm there to help them get to that outcome. And we mentioned in the last week's show that the first thing, if you want to come and be coached by John, the first thing we do is sit down for 2 hours and we get into a coaching discussion. You get to learn what it is to be coached by me. Yeah, you get to learn what it is like to be coached by me. And I will ask difficult questions. I will ask the questions that you do not want to answer. And the reason I'll ask those questions is those are the ones that are stopping you.
Okay.
The doors you won't open, a coach will open.
Yes. And why do you do that?
Well, because that's where the gold is. That's where that X level of performance is.
Yeah.
That's where the ghosts hide, behind closed doors. That's where the boogeyman is. And often it is just the boogeyman. It's not true. It's simply not true. But sometimes we can't see. Other times we choose not to see. And this goes back to the responsibility lesson and responsibility. Excuses and denial, blame, excuses and denial. So if you're busy blaming and shaming yourself, or you're making excuses for yourself as to why this didn't get done or why that didn't get done, or in denial, right? As a coach, my reputation is on the line if I let you live there. Because you go, well, I didn't achieve it. I didn't get where I wanted to go. You know what? John's useless. Blame me, because that's where it's easy to blame me.
Yeah, okay.
But we won't, as a professional coach, won't let you rest there. And they will hold you whole, and they will look after you, and they will make a difference in your life only if you're willing, which is why I do a 2-hour enrollment interview, because I don't want to coach somebody who I think is uncoachable, who's not responsible enough to take responsibility for getting what they say they'll do done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going nowhere.
John, you actually have knowledge and life experience at a higher level as well. So you have lived in that high level corporate world, having been a CEO. And that's some of the information that you bring to your coaching sessions, because you've been at that level. You know what it looks like. You know how to get there. And for people who are aspiring to be at that level, that's particularly where your coaching in the Andreia method comes into its own, doesn't it?
Well, I believe that every high-level executive, like every high-level athlete, needs a coach.
Yes.
They need someone who can to
I agree.
help them get over that next barrier, see the next thing. However, the best coach for you is the one that understands your language, the one that understands your jargon, that actually has walked the walk. So
Yes.
that's super important. And yes, I have put together close to 40 years experience of senior management, much of it in international business and trade and negotiation. I am qualified arbitrator and I have my MBA and been to Harvard Business College with strategic negotiation. So I've ticked a lot of boxes in that area. And I've got 4 kids and 3 stepkids, and they really teach you an awful lot about life.
Yeah, kids are amazing teachers. Yes, definitely.
But yes, it is. I think I certainly have tick that box, and I feel very confident and calm.
Yeah.
In that context.
In doing those higher level coaching. But having said that, that's not to, I know you, and having worked with you, you're very down to earth. So that's not, having that level of experience is not an impediment for someone in everyday life to get you as a coach as well, because you can do either. You can do the high level, or you can do the, what we would call a normal individual. You just want to get to that next level in that life, or you just want to get that next promotion, or you just want to achieve that next goal. Then a coach will help you get there. Yeah.
Yeah, you've hit my weakness, Toni. See, I do this because I love it. I'd do it if I wasn't paid.
Yes,
for
I
it.
know.
Right?
Yeah.
I do this because it is me. This is who I was born to be. And and Andreia, it's how to inspire, influence, and impact your world through being who you were born to be, not who you've been told to be. And writing this blog about John Andrew Williams, I was born to be this. This is so yeah, got me. Yeah. I love it. And I actually love imparting this knowledge to young people in particular. If the young people have got their ears on, then this is stuff that's really valuable for them, rather than to wait till 60.
I know.
Figure it out.
I was just going to say, I've had some of the most powerful conversations of my life with the younger generation. And I know I might have spoken about it before, but talking to a 17-year-old CEO who is doing senior education in a COVID year and managing projects across 104 countries in the world, if that doesn't inspire you, nothing will. And then another conversation yesterday afternoon with a young girl who has a vision for being on radio in the future, and her just asking me, where do I start? What do I do? And, one of my key messages is find those people and have a team around you. And yes, find yourself a coach or a mentor, because they will drive you further and farther than you ever thought that you could, because they're external to you, and they will see, listen, and hear things that you can change that will get you to that next level. And yeah, from John's perspective, what a privilege to be able to coach a younger person with all your years of knowledge and experience, so that they perhaps don't have to make some of those mistakes that us old guys make, and they have that information that helps them quicker, sooner, and then they can inspire, influence, and impact their world at a younger age. And we can sit back in our old age and go, wow, we were part of that. What a gift, eh?
That is a gift. I have a colleague who coached a person who was involved with the banning of plastic bags in supermarkets.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds terrible. We live vicariously through our clients, because we help them achieve, and it's a wonderful situation to be in, where you can actually look and see, well, your clients doing that, and they're achieving and they're kicking their goals. I don't care if nobody ever hears about you. That's neither here nor there. Unfortunately, if nobody ever hears about you, it tends to be negative for your business. So you do need to be doing things like this and talking to people and saying, hey, coaching matters. But, look, I wanted to reiterate that the starting point for anybody who really does want to address their life there now, and actually really wants to get started with the Andreia method, go to Andreia.Solutions. And you can find all the information you'll need there. There's a breakdown of the curriculum there. There's some discussions from people who have actually completed the course, and you can buy the online course. And the great magic about the online course is that you can do it anywhere, anytime, on any device, anywhere in the world, anytime, on any device. And there's a video for each lesson, a workbook. There's additional lessons that you get given to you. There's a mind map, so you can see the lesson in a visual form. The idea being engage as many senses as possible. Now, it's a circular method. So you have your default position, then you create the new you, and then you take conscious action. And then guess what you do? You have a new default position.
Start again.
So you take stock of your situation again, and away you go. Now the whole thing's online. You can go back in and redo the workbooks, and you can keep going and going and going.
And did you tell me, John, that you have lifetime access to the Andreia Solutions and the Andreia method once you start?
Yeah, once you start, once you have access, you have access. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. Which is actually a wonderful consideration, because as you say, as we grow and learn and go to the next level, again, we have a different default position. So you will be able to use that course again and again and again. And I know last week you said to me, John, that you actually do your own course often. And last week you'd just been revisiting module 2 to make sure that you'd done a tune-up, so to speak.
Absolutely. I did a tune-up this week on module 3, particularly on focus and gratitude. The other two I was a bit more familiar with, but I do a lesson a day, and I do get something out of it. I get a reminder, if nothing else. You know, you talk about palm olive gold. It's a reminder. And this is what the Andreia method does. You can have it there. You can go, right, I'll do a lesson while I'm sitting on the bus. You can be sitting on the bus, just commuting backwards and forwards. It comes with audio, so you can actually be driving your car and listen to the tapes. Listen to the, it's not tapes anymore, is it? The MP3 file. Sorry, my age is showing. My age is showing. This is what we mean by anywhere, in any time, you can actually be doing this work. And like an audio book, you can switch it on and off. So it really is a tool that can bring you present. And what I find is that by continually accessing the lessons, it makes me present to their content, and it reminds me of all the other pieces of the puzzle that I need to be. It's like opening the filing cabinet and pulling out a file and go, oh, now I remember everything that's in this file. Because I've had the reminders. And of course, the more you impress it, the more it becomes.
Do you find, John, that stuff stays in your subconscious and comes up into your consciousness when you need it?
It's a muscle thing, Toni. You have to you have to use it, otherwise it deteriorates if you don't regularly. And this is, we talk about this is neuroscience, where the synapses in our brain, the ones that we use, are stronger, and the weak ones disappear. So this is why, if you learn a language and you don't practice that language, you don't stay at the same level of competency. Your brain says, well, you're not using that connection, so we'll put the energy elsewhere. And so if you look at this in terms of learning how to live consciously, if you're not making that choice every day, if you're not waking up and going, okay, so I'm aware of my default positions and I know what's happened in my life, so I know those little voices that are rattling on in my head, and yes, I can address them. Sometimes I'll listen, sometimes I won't. I'm in control. I know what it is that I want to be achieving. I'm careful about the language that I use to make sure that I am portraying myself to my world and those around me in a context. I am being who I need to be to achieve my outcomes in the world. So I'm very careful about that. Then that I take action every day. I wake up every day and I have a purpose in mind. And it may not be much. Like yesterday, I had a great coaching session in the morning, and then it was cooking a curry. And I cooked the curry. Because I live my life my way. And that's really important. If I'm running around not living my life my way, why would anybody want to listen to my advice? Really important that I have a full life and I live my life my way. And that involved cooking a curry. I'm getting better at them. I'll tell you, they're pretty awesome now.
Now, is that like a slow cooked curry? Like, does it take a number of hours to do it properly?
It takes a couple of hours. A lot on the prep, a lot on the spices. You know, like I make the thing from scratch. So
what I was thinking.
I'm putting it all together, and took a few hours to do. Fortunately, it stays in the fridge and gets better every day. So
I've heard that.
They're an addiction, Toni. They're an addiction. That's why, I had to make
it. My husband loves curry, so I get it. I don't tend to cook them all that much because I'm not a real curry fan, but he loves them, so I do. Yeah. John, I was gonna just quickly drop back to your 2-hour discovery calls.
Yep.
On those 2 hours that you spend with someone, are you able to clarify where they are and where they want to go in those 2-hour conversations?
Most of the time. It really depends on the individual's own self-awareness. The more self-aware that the individual is when they come in, then the more chance we'll make progress. When I get into those conversations, my goal is to solve the person's coaching needs there and then. I know that sounds silly because you think, well, okay, where's the coaching deal with that? Nobody ever hires a coach. They pay the money to get results. So when somebody's sitting in a room with me, chat room with me for 2 hours, I want to give them a result, tangible results. So they walk out of that and go, even if we go no further, they've had an outstanding value for the investment of their time. So it really, it is full on. I had somebody once describe it as, like taking a coaching client out for lunch and coffee. Well, that's very nice and friendly, but it's not likely to get you a coaching client. What you really need to do is hire a small room down by the walls with one light bulb hanging from the ceiling, swinging backwards and forwards, chuck them in the slammer and go full Mossad on them, because that's going to get a result. That's going to change things. I'm not going to say it to be like that, but the reality is those 2-hour coaching sessions are just that. Welcome on board. What is it that you want to be coached around? And let's get on with it.
Yeah. So the value in just having a free coaching call with you will give people a certain amount of clarity, and you're really happy to do that because
absolutely, because
part of who John is helping people.
That's right. And if they become a client, That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
They want more? Great. They at least they know that they're getting. A coach is a coach. Coach is full time. That's what I do. I coach. I don't, and as soon as somebody grants me permission, I never coach unless I get granted permission, then that's what I do.
Yes.
And that's why somebody would hire me, because I'm dedicated to it.
Yeah. Do you know when Nat Cook was talking this morning about her journey to getting a gold medal? When you think about sports stars, you automatically think of sports coaches. But what I found interesting was that she very much invested in coaches for her mind. And one of the stories that she told was about one of her mindset coaches who would follow them around when they were practicing all the time. And if she missed a shot, her demeanor changed and her shoulders dropped, and he would be on the sideline clapping his hands and saying, no, 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 shoulders up, smile on your face, do the shot again. And I thought that I would remember to tell that story when you and I were talking this morning, to highlight that even really successful people have different sorts of coaches that get them to the next level. And she attributed her mindset coach, which is essentially what you do, she attributed that to her winning, ultimate winning of the gold medal. And yes, there were sports coach and strength coaches and something other else she said, but the mindset coach was the one who helped change her focus and her perceptions, her filters, and her action taking and what she needed to take action on. And even today, she still said that she still has chatter in her head that talks about that beats her up about different things. But now she said she can combat that negative chatter with, well, no, I'm a gold medalist. Like, no, that's not true anymore. So even people who have attained serious success in terms of success need someone external to themselves to help keep them on track and get them to that next level. And of course,
Well,
she's gone on to have her own 7-figure business. So it obviously works.
absolutely. Absolutely. The winning and the losing of the game is in the top 6 inches.
Yeah.
And it really,
Yeah.
it really is, because if you accept that a human body, sans drugs, is capable of doing what a human body is capable of doing, everybody has excellent skills, everybody has excellent strength, everybody has excellent diet. These are things that so where is the difference? Well, it's often we say it's the will to win. And I would say it's a little bit more than that. It's who gets the furniture out of the way. who gets themselves
action.
Who gets themselves out of their own way, and who has the belief, and who will do the work. And that's exactly, I mean, look, I love that bit about the coach standing on the sideline, because he's creating muscle memory at the same time. And so what he's creating is programming. So, you know, when she misses a shot, so she notices that her shoulders have gone down.
Yes.
Because he won't be there all the time. And then she go, oh, yeah, I noticed that. No, and then becomes a habit. Now you've created a new pathway for yourself, and you've created a new default. And you often hear that the purpose of training is so that in the heat of the moment, you do it naturally.
You need to do.
You do what you need to do, and you don't need to think about it. It just happens.
Yeah.
And so that's the ultimate. But we're kind of like at the beginning stage. You know, we take people and go, hey, and I had highly successful professionals at the top of their profession going, gee, I got all this and I'm just not happy. And part of it is because they had forgotten about gratitude. They've forgotten to be grateful.
Yes.
And then when they step back, they go, well, actually, you know what? I don't actually need any more. I don't need to achieve anything else. I've now got satisfaction. That happens.
Yeah.
But, you know, for most of us, it's what's the next thing is, and there is a method here in which people can actually achieve.
Yeah. Look, we are almost out of time again, and I just wanted to remind our listeners that you can connect with John, and it's simply John at Andreia Solutions. Andreia.solutions. And if you mention that you heard about the Andreia program on Radio Toni, John will do one of those 2-hour free sessions with you. And if you're interested in the program, which is self-based, and you have access to all of those amazing bits of the program, including the mind maps, the MP3 or audio files, the workbooks, do it at your own pace. That's also on andreiasolutions.com. Sorry,
I just want to emphasize,
Solutions.
let's spelling Andreia, 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 Solutions. Yeah,
Yes.
that's where to find us.
And if you forget that, it's also on radiotoni.com, and you will find also all of John's information, all his connections, the links to the Andreia method. If you forget and can't spell Radio Toni, and you will find John and Andreia Solutions on there as well. And so with that note, and being completely out of time as we are, what a wonderful conversation to have today. John, thank you for co-hosting with me. And we look forward to another show with you next week on the same time, live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere else. Thank you, John, for coming on Radio Toni Everyday Business. And we look forward to another conversation next week. Don't forget, it's Andreia.Solutions. Andriea. Did I get that right?
EIA.
Yes, I did.
EIA.
EIA.Solutions. Oh, my goodness. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to joining you live next week on Radio Toni Everyday Business. This is your host, Toni Lontis. Bye for now. Over to you, Don. Join us each week for another episode of Radio Toni Everyday Business. Thank you for watching and listening to Radio Toni Everyday Business. Join us each week.